Alrighty. Well, hello everybody. I'm Mr. Aiken, and today we'll be learning about the attack on Pearl Harbor. So first off, the date of the attack was December 7th, 1941. Most people know that already, and then here we have President Franklin Roosevelt's infamous speech regarding the attack, a date which will live in infamy. And then here's a little YouTube video on regards to the
with hundreds of employees here. You've seen us
speech.
We're Spectrum, your local internet, TV, and mobile provider. And we're committed to Lincoln because, well, we live here too.
All right, here we go. I'm just going to show a few seconds of this.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at solicitation of Japan, still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific.
All right, so we'll stop there. That was just a little excerpt of what Congress heard the day after the attack on December 8th of 1941. So building off that, sorry, I kind of got a little cough, but we're gonna go over some military history regarding like the island and the base on Oahu. So like I just said, the naval station Pearl Harbor was established on the Hawaiian island of Oahu in 1908. So roughly a couple of years before the start of World War I. It was slowly becoming bigger and bigger over the years to accommodate the Navy's largest ships. This is due to us becoming more militarized after World War I, because we went into World War I not very prepared. So we wanted to change that by, we upgraded our ships from the dreadnoughts used in World War I to the battleships and aircraft carriers we used in World War II. So we had to accommodate for that. So they dug and dredged the harbor to make it deeper so we can use the boats in the harbor. And then it was also used as a military training base for the United States Pacific Fleet and the Air Force at the time in the early 20th century. So there's some little background knowledge on the island itself. So then we'll move on to the next. Asking you guys, what's your prior knowledge before we dive into the lesson about like what you've learned so far through your schooling of the attack of Pearl Harbor? So just talk about what you guys know and I'll listen. And yeah.
My pre-existing knowledge of it is that it was very early in the morning and the Japanese used kamikaze tactics to pretty much wipe out the Pacific Fleet. And but I remember they did not successfully get our main oil and gasoline reserve, so that's how we stayed mobilized.
Yeah, they totally disregarded targeting that, which is their number one mistake. I mean, they did cripple our fleet by sinking 6 battleships, but we used that oil that they left to quickly revamp and get back out there. So good. Anything else?
I'm gonna be completely honest. All I know is that it was like the reason that we went into the war.
Yeah,
that's it. Not a huge history buff.
That's totally fine. Well, you're going to learn more about it. So you're totally right. This was the main reason. Well, one of the main reasons we entered World War II. I mean, us entering the Second World War was impending. I mean, it was bound to happen. So Pearl Harbor was the onset of us entering, because the day after we declared war on Japan, and then Germany on the 11th declared war on us. So kind of just domino effect. So then we'll move on here. Briefly talking about the leading up to the attack. Japan in the Pacific was taking huge control over countries and territories. That was a threat to us because we had territories in the Pacific, such as the Philippines, that fueled most of our sugar imports. Britain had a lot of troops in the Pacific, but were too focused on the threat in Europe, close to the homeland, mainland in Great Britain, to stop the Japanese aggression. So they were just kind of on their own. The only thing that was in Japan's way was us, the United States, and like I said, its territories. The United States, because of their aggression, cut off trade with Japan. Because of their aggressive expansion, we embargoed tons of trading goods like oil. Oil was a big thing, which was the main thing that Japan needed to successfully carry out their motives. And that's the main thing why they were invading, because they needed natural resources to keep their empire alive. And then like in the video before, FDR was explaining that Japan wanted to keep, we're talking about peace, but then the morning of December 7th, they put it all aside and attacked. Here it says peace talks went on for a month until December 6th, so the day before the attack. The peace talks went awry. And then the morning of, the United States cracked Japanese code signaling for attack in Washington, D.C., but we didn't know where the attack would take place or where the Japanese were wanting to move on. So here's a little video from the movie Pearl Harbor of us cracking the code. It's kind of blurry, but.
Enemy submarines attempting to enter Pearl Harbor at 0653. 720. We had decoder delays, Admiral. Relay this to Washington, recall staff. Failure. Useless. Thurman here. Tokyo transmitting to their embassy in Washington. Discontinue use of your decoding machine and dispose of immediately. Special emphasis on destroying important parts. Do you read that? Acknowledge. Naval Intel intercepted a transmission from Tokyo, the Japanese embassy in Washington, instructing them to break apart all decoder machines and burn all secret documents. Japanese are expecting a war.
Alrighty, so that was a good depiction of when we first figured out what was happening that day. Most of our military officials were flabbergasted that it was coming to this. Oops. So then, yeah, we'll move on. So now we're going to be talking about the morning of the attack, or the day of the attack. I kind of broke it down into a timeline. So at approximately 6:45 a.m., the first shots fired by the USS Ward at a Japanese submarine trying to enter the harbor were heard. These were the first shots fired by the United States in World War II. That was pretty huge. I mean, we had Japanese submarines trying to move into our harbor without us picking them up, only when they were first entering, which is kind of crazy. And then at 7:40, the first wave of Japanese aircraft reaches the island of Oahu. And then 9 minutes later, the Japanese aerial commander orders the attack to commence on the ships on Pearl Harbor. And then a couple minutes later, the coordinated attack on Pearl Harbor actually began. That's when 180 warplanes started to inflict heavy damage to the ships anchored at Pearl Harbor. And the thing is, at Pearl Harbor, like it said there, the ships were anchored, so there was no way of them leaving. So they were just sitting there, sitting ducks. There was nothing they can do. And yeah, so at 8:54, the second wave of attack begins. So more planes came and started to inflict heavy damage. And then at 10 a.m., Japanese planes start to head back to their carriers and go back to the mainland of Japan. And then here's a video that I'm implementing in from the movie Pearl Harbor to give you a picture of like kind of what sailors and civilians saw that morning. So as soon as these ads go, if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. So here we see Japanese planes taking off from the aircraft carriers on their way to Hawaii. And then here's all of our ships that are anchored, aren't moving. There's just sitting ducks. That's what was so sad about the day. And then here's like the sheer force of what people would see that morning, which is crazy. And the thing is, most of these sailors didn't know that an attack was coming. So they figured that all these planes were US Army planes just training until they started getting bombed. And they realized like, oh my God, like this is an attack. See, all of them are confused and stuff. It's just crazy. And then here's a depiction of us, or the Japanese bombing the USS Arizona battleship, which was probably one of the most crucial targets that they went after. And here it depicts an African American handmaid on one of the ships, finally feeling like a contribution to what was going on instead of just being a cook, which is a huge part of the movie. Here it shows all the sailors trying to survive being drowned and stuff. Really eye-opening and sad. So yeah, we'll end it there, but that kind of gives a good depiction of the morning and during the attack. It was truly something I would not want to experience, and a sad day for America. So then we have a little activity here. I'm gonna ask you guys to think or just recollect your emotions that you were feeling when you were looking through these photos that I'm about to show you. I'll give a little context on them. So first off, we have here is the battles. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The base of Pearl Harbor, and then here you have our battleship row alongside the coast of this little island, and then we have like here's all of our oil reserves and everything. Just it shows our battleships finally being attacked. Just sitting there, can't do anything about them, about the attack going on. So we have that one. And then this one, I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this picture. I mean, it's pretty famous in regards to the attack. This is the USS Arizona that got sunk. Like I said, one of the most crucial targets that was hit that day. And then here we have a group of sailors laying to rest, casualties during the attack on one of the islands. And they're just paying their tribute and respect to these sailors or civilians getting laid to rest. So can we elaborate on your emotions if you were to see these as an American? I mean, right now, or even like an American, like a month after the attack or the day after the attack, seeing these photos, what would you feel? Just elaborate on that.
I would feel very angry and afraid because this was one of the first attacks on US soil. So I believe it's a civil war, but like the first foreign attacks since the War of 1812, I believe.
Yep.
So I'd definitely be afraid and pissed off. And also, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big motivation for everyone to go into war.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else?
Yeah, I would definitely felt like terrified.
Yeah.
Like just being like, whoa, this is happening. And like, what does this mean now? And just a bunch of questions just flooding your head
Yeah.
of like, where does this make us and like where are we at now and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it definitely make you realize like, oh my gosh, like we got hit at home. Like that's something that we haven't felt in a long time, because most of like years before this, it's always been in Europe or on the Asian continents. Like nothing like this has ever happened on American soil in like a few hundred years. So I mean it'd be just jaw dropping. And then the aftermath, we have a quick little YouTube video. I'm not going to show very much. It's only 3 minutes long, but it just shows kind of like it's from the same movie, just the aftermath of the attack, showing casualties and what the harbor looked like. And I just couldn't imagine being one of these people there that day. I mean, it'd just be crazy. Here we see all the ships burning, bodies being lifted out of the water, trying to save people that are trapped in the sinking ships. All right, we'll quit there. But you kind of get it. What people were experiencing that day. I mean, I probably couldn't imagine actually being there. But I'll go through some aftermath notes. A total of 2,404 United States military and civilians were killed that day, and a whopping number of 1,177 were killed aboard the USS Arizona alone. That was the battleship that I talked about, was a crucial target for the Japanese Air Force and Navy. And then 68 civilians were killed, but only a total of 64 Japanese military personnel were killed, and then we had one taken prisoner. So that goes to show how much damage they actually inflicted on us. Then we'll go 15 United States Navy personnel received the Medal of Honor and 51 received the Navy Cross. And then the Pearl Harbor Commemorative Medal was given to all military veterans that were there after the attack. And then the day after, December 8th, is when President Roosevelt addressed Congress and declared war on Japan, and the United States was officially entered into the Second World War. And then a couple of days later, Hitler declared war on us, which also made us a contender in the European theater. And then we have a little activity here. So in regards to attack, America kind of treated Japanese Americans like crap. They were forced into being relocated into their homes on the West Coast because military leaders thought that they would sabotage and try to spy on United States civilians and military operations. They were forced into internment camps where they would have the chance to work or just live inside the fences. And I'm going to ask you guys to talk about your opinions on if you think this was fair or not. And we'll just kind of build a discussion off that.
I definitely don't think it was fair. I mean, especially obviously this is before they knew the Holocaust was happening, but it's kind of
Yeah.
hypocritical stereotyping a whole group and punishing them based on their status in their group. So it definitely was not fair.
Yeah, and like you said, like Americans didn't know about the Holocaust. So for us to like even think about doing this kind of comes to show like we kind of in a sense had like we're doing the same things as the Nazis, but just not as bad. Just taking a group of like a racial group and throwing them into camps due to something that they had no intents of doing. Just was just crazy. Jasmine, do you have anything?
I was just gonna say like the same thing. Like, yeah, it wasn't fair. Like,
Yeah.
I do remember this from like my class, and my teacher
Yeah.
was like full on, like very like strong about this.
Really?
But like, yeah, again, like they didn't really know
Yeah.
and what was happening in Germany, but it's definitely like kind of like a interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Coincidence. So I appreciate your thoughts. And then we're gonna do a little check for understanding. I'm just gonna ask some questions about some of the content we cover. Then we have a little 5-question Kahoot after this. So if you guys remember, how long did the surprise attack approximately take? We kind of went over it, but I don't know if you guys remember or not.
I think it was like 2 to 3 hours in that
Yeah,
range.
approximately 2. I mean, it was quick, which was crazy, and they did that much damage. They crippled our whole, like pretty much our whole Pacific fleet in 2 hours. And then what did the United States do as a result of this attack? You guys have anything?
They declared war, right?
Yep, that's the ultimate reason. And then there are a few other things, but if you have anything, Carson, do you have anything?
Oh, yeah, they declared war, and in turn Germany declared war, and they definitely started mobilizing the rest of the United States. Like they were doing it slowly, but they definitely accelerated it to Mach speed.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And then a thing that too, they in turn put the Japanese Americans in
Oh
internment
yeah.
camps. That was pretty big, but what impact did this lone attack have on the world? Just want you guys to elaborate on this if you can.
Honestly, after this and how the rest of the world probably saw how the United States responded, it kind of started that like US is a big superpower. I know it kind of like got kicked off in World War One, but this definitely especially after dropping the nukes on Japan, like
Yeah.
it shows like we don't mess around when you get on our soil. So
For sure. For sure. Jasmine, you got anything?
I was gonna say among lines of the same thing, like how United States was like they're like slowly creeping into going into the war, and this kind of just made them jump the line
Yeah.
like completely. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this really kicked us into gear of America first, and we got to do whatever it takes to make sure that we win because this is for the greater good of the world. So those are 2 very good answers. So if you guys could go to kahoot.it, I got a little Kahoot. I'm sure you'll be able to see the pin number once I don't want to do that. The game pin should be on here. You guys can just put it in quick. There it is. All right, we got Jasmine in.
All right, hold on. It's saying it's not recognizing the pin. Hold on. 7213771. Okay, bet.
Got it.
Yes.
All right, we got Hector in. All right, here we go. We're gonna start. It's just a 5-question one, so it'll be fairly quick, and it's just over the stuff we kind of covered, and so. There's question 1. Good job.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Good job. 2 for 2 for both of you.
Ooh.
Question 3.
Oh, shit.
There we go. 3 for 3. Paying attention. All right, 4. There we go. Tiebreaker.
Yeah.
All right, you got December 7th. Yeah, those were just, I mean, I kind of tried to mess you guys up. I had the same date but different years, so that's why you picked that one. I totally see why. There we go. Got that one right.
Yeah.
So that's our Kahoot game. Here's our standings. See who got first and second.
Yeah.
Hector got
Yeah.
first.
I have a history minor, so if I didn't get first, I'd be really disappointed in myself.
Yeah, that'd probably be bad. All right, so that concludes our lesson for today. I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you learned quite a bit about the attack, Jasmine. I know you had some prior, just a little bit prior knowledge, but I'm hoping you know more about it after this. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.
Yes.